Right. Good morning. Thank you for joining us for our Fun Fridays from the Field Career Chats. Today, we're going to take an inside look at law enforcement careers. And we're so happy to have Mitch Seitz joining us today from Elkader. Am I correct about that?
Yep.
Okay. So my first question for you is, how are you addressed in the field? So if someone sees you out in the community, do we call you Officer Seitz? How is that appropriate?
The school age kids usually call me Officer Mitch.
Okay.
Technically, it's Chief Mitch Seitz, but I don't care. People call me Mitch. People call me Man. It really doesn't matter to me.
Well, you're pretty easygoing about that. We appreciate that. And I know
Yep.
you spend a lot of time in your community, which is why you're on with us today, because you're used to connecting with students. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about your background and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah. So after high school, I went and played football in college for a little bit. I applied at the Lansing Police Department. This was in 2004. So that's way up northeast corner of the state. Got certified there, got trained, my basic training. And a couple of years later, I went to Postville. After that, I decided I think I needed to see some changes in policing in general. And you can't really do that as a line level officer, although I had some other specialties. But there wasn't a lot of headway I could make. So I decided to try to become a police chief and administrator, and where I can kind of implement some of those changes. And it's working out pretty well.
Fantastic. Okay, so what we have planned for our audience today, in addition to, of course, answering the questions on the sheet,
Yep.
is we're going to showcase the things that you wear as part of your daily duties as an officer. So you can kind of, see what that entails, what the use is for that kind of thing. So I'm going to just let you take that. And I'll try to interject these questions as appropriate as we kind of showcase those items. How's that sound?
Sure. Sounds great. So I think probably one of the biggest things that we kind of need to change our mind with when we think about a police officer is we think law enforcement and that's all they do. So of course, some of the things that I have on, and I'll show you, are law enforcement related, but that's kind of like if a nurse was just going to give a shot to treat a patient, right? Just a shot, and that's the law enforcement part. But really what we're really focused on is the overall health and safety of the people we're dealing with. And that's kind of the approach that we take. So yes, our primary job or our authority is to enforce the law. It's really to take care of people and advance public safety rather than just kind of giving everybody a shot, right? like a nurse would. We would think that's crazy. So I don't even allow our officers to address themselves as law enforcement officers. They're identified as peace officers, and that's what our state certificate says. So we use that authority to enforce the law to advance our overall mission, not really just go to that just to do that. And that's a big change in this field. I think we're kind of learning that law enforcement doesn't just work all the time if you just enforce the law, right? We're about problem solving and helping people do that. So, but if you can
So I'm just going to say some of the things that he just said are under your employability skills. I heard a few employability skills in there that you would need: problem solving, like community service kinds of things. I don't know if you want to touch on anything else that are like those essential employability skills, and we can get that question since you kind of went there already.
Yeah, making sure you're on time is a very big thing, because if somebody calls, we might not think it's a big deal from our perspective because we've seen a lot of things, but that person on the other line really does. So being on time, getting back to them as quickly as possible, showing up as quickly as possible, those are all very, very important things. Otherwise, even if we do a great job when we get there, in their eyes, we might have failed. So punctuality is super important. Also, I'll mention report writing. It is ridiculous the amount of report writing we do and how accurate we have to be. If we aren't accurate or we guess on things, then it could potentially change somebody's life. So it's that important. So
So English class is important if you want to go into this field, is what I'm hearing. And writing
yes,
skills.
absolutely.
Good to know.
I still use calculators, but so math, no, just joking. Math is important. We do use a lot of math, especially in like firearms and stuff like that. So, but I'll get back to kind of what I was showing you. So this is just a body cam. I don't know if you can see it. It's just a body cam. Every time we contact somebody, we hit a button and it starts recording. That way we have record of it, and if something were to happen, we can more accurately depict that in our reports and stuff. So this is just a set of handcuffs. These are standard handcuffs, nothing special. I don't like using them very, and usually I don't have to use them because if you work with people long enough, they know that they usually respect you enough not to do anything crazy. This is just some extra ammunition for my firearm, for my sidearm. We always have extra of those things just because we're dealing with human behavior. And I did want to go over a slide at some point and just kind of touch base because I think it's definitely a skill set that whether you're in law enforcement or not, you can use. This is a tourniquet in case I or somebody else really gets hurt to stop bleeding. My firearm, of course, I don't usually leave the house without that, especially if I'm in uniform, just because people might want to try to hurt me if they don't know me. If they know me, they usually don't. But there's been some close calls and things do happen around the area. But we really have a good group of citizens, I guess I would say, really supportive, and they're usually pretty compliant. Really ask them to do something. So this is part of one of those things that the extra stuff that we don't think about police officers do. This is called an AED. You probably see them hanging around your school or your nurse's office, I'm sure has them. That's just a defibrillator. Anyway, I know how to use it and it does save lives. So I might not know how to pronounce it, but typically what happens is we're usually out and about a little bit. Like ambulances aren't just patrolling the areas, right? They're usually especially in small communities, they're either in a shop or a shed or something, and they have to get called out. So that time delay allows us to kind of collapse that time where a patient calls for a medical condition, and we can give, just in the meantime, while the ambulance is responding, give them hopefully some life-saving treatment. So we do a lot of that. We always carry a med kit. This usually stops or can stop bleeding and stuff like that. We go to a lot of accidents and stuff, and while not all of them are bad, anytime somebody gets cut or anything, we want to patch them up as soon as possible and do a good job. So the ambulance crew, when they get there, they can do what they do best, probably better than us. But in the meantime, we're just good enough to hold everything together a little bit till everybody gets there. Let's see. This is a taser. This thing is crazy. This just shells out about 50,000 volts. And this affects the central nervous system. So science, right? Science is important. And a lot of science goes into kind of my specialty, which is use of force. And I'm a defensive tactics instructor and a firearms instructor. Most of what that involves is understanding human behavior and stuff. So science is a big thing for us in this department anyway. We really prioritize it, and brain health, mental health.
So I think we've covered our questions about what classes you should take in high school, maybe some English, some science. How about maybe some health? Would some healthcare classes of some sort?
Absolutely.
I'm shocked at the amount of, you're talking about like caring for people medically.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, if you think about it, the most dangerous situations that we go into are when emotions are high. And that can be a medical call. It can be somebody just having a really bad day where they're just having a bad day. And when you're emotionally charged, you kind of have this, you can have this cloud around you. I might look at it like, and if you're in a little bit of a crisis, and I'm sure everybody that's listening has been in those situations where they're just so angry or so upset that they can't really function and they can't listen to advice and they can't even listen to commands, even from a police officer. So we're always aware of those things. Actually, that just goes right into, I don't know if you can see this. Uh, can you see that? Can you see what it says?
Emotion and logic. I
Yeah.
can see that. Yep.
Okay, so you see the baseline there. We have a baseline. That's like how we are normally, right? Like we just woke up or having a good day. That's where we're at. But the more emotion gets involved in the situation that we're in, or that we find ourselves in, or that we're thinking about, our ability to reason with logic goes down. So the more emotionally charged we are, the more logic we can't use, right? So it's kind of on a spectrum and a scale. So the more charged you are, the more upset you are, you physically can't with your brain think about what to do right? So we have to break that emotion, get that cloud back down in order to, get some logic going in the conversation. And that's true for everything on the playground. The more upset you are, you're not thinking right, or your ability to think right is greatly diminished, and that's science.
So if available in high school, and we'll talk next about what kind of formal education you might or might not need, or training maybe is a better way to look at it. What about like psychology and sociology? Would those be useful?
Absolutely, 100%. If I had somebody that applied here and they had a psychology degree, they would set them apart, in
Really?
my
Okay.
opinion.
Okay. So what would be the minimum that you would need to get into the field? And like you said, what would be those things that would really set a candidate apart?
Yep. Well, you have to be 18 years old. I started when I was 19. So I'm going on about 19 years here. So you have the 18, you have to have a high school diploma or your GED. And then typically what happens is you apply to a police department or a sheriff's office or whatnot, some agency, and they will send you to the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy within the year. So that's when you get really your basic training. It's kind of like the military. Most of the time it's ran like the military, just very strict, and you have to kind of be on point and know what you're doing, because if you mess up, you might hurt or get hurt.
So no degree required, but you could get a 2 or 4 year degree if.
Yes, if you get a 2 or 4 year degree, that academy will get shortened. Right now, I believe it's 16 weeks. If you don't have a police science degree or political science degree, and I believe it's 9 if you do. But it's also up to the department. So some departments would rather just, no matter what, send you to the longer academy. And the longer academy is down in Johnston, Iowa, right by Des Moines, and the shorter ones in Waterloo at Hawkeye Tech.
Oh, okay. Wow. I'm learning so much today.
Yeah.
Thank you. I didn't know you could shorten that if you had the degree behind it.
Yeah.
We do want to welcome questions, so feel free to put those in the chat and we will get to them. I have another question about education and training, because you said you have some further certifications.
Yep.
How does that work, and how do you decide you want to do that? How does that further your career?
Tactical team. So it was a SWAT team. Can you still hear me okay? I was freezing a
We
little bit.
lost you for a little bit, but I
Oh,
think
okay.
we're good. So yeah,
So,
go back to that tactical team.
okay, earlier on in my career, I was lucky enough to be a part of a multi-jurisdictional TAC team. So emergencies, think kind of the fun things that you see on TV. That's what I did for quite a while. So that was awesome. Um, and so that taught me a lot about probably more on the constitutional law stuff. Um, when you can and can't, what are the requirements, what means what, all those things, and those can get fuzzy sometimes. So it really helped me kind of clarify some of the case law and stuff like that. I went to Postville and I was a K-9 handler for 4 years. That was awesome. So drugs, and I was an investigator there. And I also received training. I've got a couple like high level interviews and interrogation classes from the FBI and the DCI here. So that was awesome. What was great about working in Postville, which is a pretty diverse community, is they really sent us to any training we wanted, which was awesome. And we didn't necessarily take advantage of that offer, but we took it seriously, and we were able to get some training that probably you don't get in Northeast Iowa. So that was great. Then I became a firearms instructor. The reason why I did that initially was because I like firearms and I like guns. I hunted my entire life and stuff like that. But really, what it taught me is a lot of the use of force stuff. I started thinking about why people hurt officers, why officers hurt people, all those things. Why is this not working very well like it's supposed to? And then I started diving into psychology and the mental health area and dynamic of our work. And then I became a defensive tactics instructor, which also deals with use of force. So I'm really passionate about that stuff, just because I also teaching
Our connection is not fantastic with Chief Sites right now, unfortunately. This is a new situation for us, so we'll see if he can jump back on. We still have 3 questions that we need to cover on the worksheet.
Well, he may have been talking about how he trains other people on their permit to carry, which he actually trained me on years ago. So that's kind of interesting too, but it seems like that's where he was going, hopefully.
It looks like he just logged off to log back on.
Log back on, hopefully. Yep. So thank you to our live audience for being patient. If you do have those questions, put them in and we'll get them covered. I know personally, I have learned a lot already in 15 minutes this morning. So that's pretty fascinating. It sounds like there's a lot of different ways you can take the career depending on what your interests are. Clearly he has a passion for firearms and has been able to do a lot with that. So that's really neat. I did have the opportunity to take students to the Dubuque law enforcement facility recently, and that was interesting as well. So if you are really interested in this area, that would maybe be a next activity. So this would be more what we call awareness activity, and you could move on and actually go on site and explore careers further in this area. If you find after today, like, wow, I'm really excited about this and I want to find out more. So take advantage of those next steps. You're back with us.
Sorry,
Yay.
I'm back. I don't know, my internet kind of went out, but
That's
how much
okay.
how much time do we got?
Well, let's jump into, so you are a chief.
Yep.
Police chief. Tell us about some other career opportunities that students might want to consider or where. So I'm just going to say from personal experience, we hear a lot of students who want to do forensic science, or they want to jump into investigation, which is my understanding, you just don't go into that. You need to start where you started. And do you want to tell us more about those opportunities and how maybe you get there.
Okay, sorry, I missed you. I think I know what you were saying though. My internet connection is not very good, sorry. So yeah, for somebody that wants to go into forensic or investigations, we do all of that. Now, if we have a big case or something like that, and we don't have the resources, or we need to run all around the country or something, or we don't have the equipment, then we would call somebody like the Department of Criminal Investigation, which is the DCI, and they do an incredible job. They specialize in interviews. They're just really good at what they do. So that's kind of brings me up to my next point is I think in a smaller area, you kind of have to do everything. It's a little bit harder than, I won't say it's harder. I'll say there are different challenges that we probably wouldn't expect in a small area, because you do have to be pretty well-rounded and you have to be well-versed in everything. Whereas if you went to Des Moines Police Department, they do have those specialties, like traffic enforcement just does traffic enforcement and takes calls. Investigations just follows up on investigations, and they can get a little bit better than I think we can at that. But we also have to do everything. So from the initial call to when it goes to court, we've got to take care of all of that stuff. So you get that just being a police officer. There are aspects of investigations and interviews and drug work and all that stuff that you can do, and that's why I really like this area and this job.
Okay, there you go. What do you like about this career? Being in a small community, you get to experience all aspects of being in law enforcement, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah.
Or being a peace officer.
Absolutely. And it's not like what we see on TV. Like, people don't hate us. People are so good to us. And if you have a community that really supports you, that really wants you to win, you can reciprocate that a lot. So a police department's only as good as their community, and a community only as good as their police department. And if one of them is not doing well, then it's the other's collective fault, I guess I would say. So everybody working together and have that, that team view is pretty vital.
Is there anything you dislike about your career really quickly? And then we do have a question that came in from the students, so we want to make sure we can address quickly.
What I don't like is that when you're in this job, you kind of see people at their worst sometimes. People you really care about, that you like, that you otherwise would be friends with, and sometimes when they call, they're just having their worst day, right? And they're not thinking clearly sometimes, or whatnot. So seeing people struggle, and especially if you know them, and if you're doing this right, you need to know all of your community members to a certain level. So every call that I go on, you have this want to help them even more, really. And that can get frustrating because sometimes you can't, whether it's not our job or policy or something like that. Sometimes that gets frustrating and pretty draining. You also see a lot of people physically hurt, accidents, some of that stuff. And human beings aren't supposed to see that. So we see it over and over and over and over. And probably why I'm really passionate about mental health in police work is because I would venture to say, and I'll say it, that probably 80 or 90% of us probably have a form of PTSD. I don't want that to steer anybody away, because it's still honorable to do this job, but it is very challenging emotionally sometimes. So I'm just being honest with the students and being honest with everybody.
We appreciate that. That's what this is all about. We want students to really realize as many aspects of a career before they go into it, so that they don't get into it and then decide, oh, this isn't what I thought it would be. So we appreciate that honesty. So the question from students, which is a great one, and we'll probably end with this one: if you make a mistake with the law as a minor, can you still become a police officer when you're an adult?
Yes. In fact, I have a possession of alcohol under legal age. It wasn't mine, but I took it in college. So
Well, we appreciate your honesty with that as well. And is there
Yes,
anything that they could do as a minor that would maybe impact future employment in the field?
yeah, community service stuff
Okay.
is big.
Okay.
Boy Scouts, Eagle Scouts, Girl Scouts, those things are really important. If I see it, just like the psychology degree, if I see an Eagle Scout on my somebody's resume, I know that they worked really hard and they've used some good judgment in order to get there. So those are great things, and just probably being an open person. I think I heard a quote the other day. It was be curious, not judgmental. So when you're like wondering about somebody or you're talking with somebody and you disagree with them, ask questions and don't be getting mad. Like, be curious, just don't judge them. That's not our job.
I think that is a great finishing thought for us today. And I so appreciate your time, Chief Seitz. And the students, we did get a message that the students are really enjoyed this, that we're on live. So to all of you watching the recording, thank you for joining this episode of College and Career Connections Fun Fridays from the Field Career Chats, featuring our Chief Seitz from Elkader. So have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.